Welcome to the Inside Slant Podcast, brought to you by Jayhawkslant.com. Here's the staff from Jayhawk Slant, the online leader in KU coverage since 1999.
Hey everybody, this is Randy Withers. Welcome into another edition of the Inside Slant Podcast from Jayhawkslant.com. We're going to get in a wide range of KU topics today for Jayhawk Nation with updates on men's basketball, Kansas football, and last but not least, the surging Kansas baseball Jayhawks. We're going to cover it all. Before we get into that, let's get started by bringing in our man on the hardwood beat from the Allen Fieldhouse Suite, Slant basketball editor Shea Wildeboer. Shea, how are you today, man?
What's up, fellas? Hey, Fitz has got that thing rolling.
Man, I'm telling you, just cooking people and
Rolling,
hosting
unlike
a
the
regional.
Royals. Unlike the Royals.
Oh, you had to bring that up, didn't you?
Fire that guy now. I'm sorry. I know this is fire that guy. But no, man, I'm ready for some. We got some basketball stuff coming up next week, and I'm ready to. I miss basketball stuff. So, but everything's good here.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. As always, we are now joined by the man on the Kansas football beat, the publisher of Jayhawk Slant, Mr. John Kirby. John, how are you?
I'm doing well, fellas. It's an exciting time with Kansas baseball, isn't it? It gives us something
Boom.
to talk about. With we always joke that this starts to be the slow time of the season. You got football camps, but those kind of they don't. I don't know that those bring in the readership that they used to from years
that has
ago.
Changed significantly,
big time. So I mean, having baseball and the attention that it's gotten, and listen, the message board has been hopping. I mean, we've got some good baseball fans on there, and then also it's drawn in some new eyeballs from Kansas fans who are following it. And listen, I just heard regional tickets right before I got on here. I think they're gone. I mean, they were by 11 o'clock this morning. There wasn't any to be had. So fun times, man. It should be a great environment in Lawrence.
That's awesome to hear. And I try to say it as often as I can. If you are listening, first off, thank you. We love our loyal Inside Slant podcast listeners, and there are lots of you. But if you're somebody new that is tuning in for the first time, as John said, first, welcome. We are happy to have you. If you are a Kansas fan and you know another Kansas fan, there is no better time to join the premier online home, the Kansas Jayhawks, jayhawkslant.com, than right now, because you're getting coverage of Kansas Jayhawks football, Kansas basketball, and Kansas baseball. So let's, I mentioned men's basketball. Shea, let's get right into that. I know it's been a few weeks since the season ended, and you said you're already missing basketball. I know you were on the grind covering the transfer portal, tracking the latest on Tyron Stokes. Now that everything is finished up, take us back through that time. What are your thoughts on the portal and getting the number one player in the nation in Tyron Stokes?
Yeah, I think that's the thing that had to happen more than anything else. I mean, listen, I love the portal additions. Keanu Dawes, Blyden Jr., and the kid from Radford, Parker Stephen. So yeah, I think those were all great additions. But I think the thing that you had to have was Tyron Stokes. You had simply because of all the time you invested in him. I mean, they invested a lot of time. And if you miss on him, I'm not sure where you turn. I mean, there's going to be guys.
Oh, I don't think they could have recovered if they missed on him.
Right. Yeah, there's going to be guys that remove their names from the draft. Obviously, they would have had options, but not. Here's the thing, and I'm going to say this respectfully. Stokes is going to give Bill Self some heart troubles. I mean, he's. I can't remember the last time, and I'm sure it's happened that a player received more than one technical in a season, but I can see that happening. And here's the thing that I love about him, and I think when you have guys that are difference makers, when he's on the court, he doesn't think. And when I mean that, I'm not just talking basketball wise. I mean, like, he says what he wants to say. And he does what he wants to do, and he plays the way he wants to play. And I think when you have guys that don't think, that just play, it exceeds the process much quicker. And I think that's the type of guy he's going to be. He's going to come in from, and I said this last year about Darren Peterson. Obviously, I didn't foresee the cramps. I didn't foresee the issues. So I'm gonna tone it down a little bit.
You didn't foresee the creatine?
Right. Yeah. Right. And all that, like Like, it was just a weird deal the whole season. I think this guy has a chance to be the best freshman that Bill's signs since they've been here. I mean, and it might not, Rain, if he plays up to his capabilities, if he plays the way that we've seen him play, I'm not sure it's even going to be close. He's just a different guy. He plays with an edge. He's uber talented. He's a three-level scorer. Obviously, there's going to take some time defensively to play the way that Bill wants to play. But yeah, man, I mean, I know I'm not supposed to be excited. I know I'm supposed to kind of take a step back. But I'm excited for this one. I think he's got a chance to be really, really, really special. Assuming that he plays all 35 games and there's no setbacks or no troubles, and I don't anticipate any of that stuff. You never know in this day and age. But yeah, I think they finished that thing the way it had to finish. And when he came to Lawrence a few weeks ago, and we met him in the hotel, and like it was like the fan turnout, the coaching staff. I mean, it was like a huge deal. I mean, this is a big thing here. So yeah, they closed it out perfectly. I always say Spring Bill showed up again and delivered. And he delivered in a major way.
All the fun recruiting coverage for this class is obviously wrapped up, and now we move forward to trying to figure out what Bill Self's roster is going to look like this year. I know we'll get more into this as time goes on, but what are your initial thoughts on the roster headed into the 26-27 season, Shay?
I love it. You got the guards you needed. You got Tay Kenny, you got Blyden Jr., you got a guy in Keanu Dawes with some, with some experience. I may be the only one, and I know some people on the message board aren't excited about it, but I love the Luke Barnett signing. I do. Time and time again, Kansas has faced a team or multiple teams every year, including in the tournament, Ali Frukmanesh, who has a guy that just goes off, who has a guy that when he crosses the half court line, he's in range. And Kansas has that in Luke Barnett. I think it's going to take a guy like maybe Trent Perry a little bit of time. I love Davion Atkins if he's healthy. I think he's got a lot of athleticism. He's like one of those guys that you see at Houston, the guy that gives Kansas trouble. And I love Paul. I think Paul's got a chance to be really good. I think anytime you lose a player the caliber of Flory, and you guys, I'm going to tell you this. I've heard from a lot of people. I know Louisville spent a ton of money on him, but I'm not sure. I mean, defensively, you know what you're gonna get with Flory always.
Mhm.
But offensively,
Yeah.
he was a guy around that was great around the rim. You could throw lobs to, but he wasn't. He wasn't the type of guy like when I think back to that team with Udoka Azubuike and those guys that never got to play in the tournament, the team that won 18 in a row. I think of a guy like Big Doke who you just couldn't. There was no answer for him. You got a guy like Paul, similar build, similar size, similar stature. Obviously, he's got a lot to prove. But I think he's got a chance to be a really good player. And I love the fact that Cole Rosario returned. Again, you guys, I know he struggled, and I wouldn't say this, I wouldn't put this out there if I didn't believe it. He's going to have a big year. I mean, he's got a great work ethic. People seem to forget that he came in a year early. He came in as a junior, not as a senior. He graduated a year early.
Which is still just wild to me.
Right. And we all know, and listen, I've covered, this will be my 24th year, same as Coach Self. And I know how he operates. And I know for some guys, when you're playing and you're looking over your shoulder a little bit, that can impact your game. I mean, you're thinking, you're not playing, and I'm not sure. Right. And I'm not sure he ever really got into a comfortable groove. But you guys, here's a guy, and I managed to spend some time with him. Great kid. And his I posted a YouTube video that I was sent a few days ago of him like working out. He's going to have a big year. So I love the roster construction. I'm excited to see Leroy Blyden Jr. And obviously, I mean, Stokes. He's the one guy that I just can't wait to see. I mean, I think different level, different type of player. And a guy that you absolutely have to have on your team to win. And it's kind of, listen, you guys, Kansas owned this division or owned the Big 12 for a lot of years. And they've kind of taken a little step back because obviously, with NIL and all those things, everything's kind of on an even playing field. You don't have the kind of roster depth that you used to. Guys want to play now. Guys want the money now, and they don't want to wait. But I think this is a big year for Kansas in terms of reestablishing themselves as a team in the Big 12 and kind of getting some of that swagger back.
Shay, I know that recruiting never sleeps. So, and the fact that you already said, you're kind of missing basketball. So with that in mind, where have you been getting your fix? Is there anything that you're tracking for next year's class already that maybe some guys that you've already got your eyes on for this next recruiting class for Bill Self and his staff?
Yeah, I mean, keeping a close eye on Javon Bardwell, obviously, who's already committed, having a phenomenal spring. I mean, phenomenal spring. When he first committed, I thought that he was a guy that would reclassify for sure. And then I heard maybe not. And now I'm kind of hearing it's up in the air. If you can get him on campus a year earlier than expected and just add another weapon, I mean, I think that's would be absolutely, I mean, enormous. And we all know how Coach Self loves his point guards. Beckham Black,
Hmm.
180. I mean, he's blowing up, Randy, blowing up. Offer from Kansas last week, sixth ranked player nationally, number 2 overall. I'm telling Kansas fans now, a guy that you're going to want to keep an eye on this kid. I know they love him. They want to get him in for a visit, see where things go. You got Ryan Hampton, who's the younger brother of a guy that KU spent a lot of time recruiting a few years ago. Real close with the coaching staff. Knows everybody well. Knows Coach Townsend well. Knows Bill Self well. So yeah, I mean, those are probably the three. But the one I'm most excited about is if you can get Bardwell on campus a year early. And with NIL, Randy, I don't know what that looks like now. I mean, I know KU shelled out a ton of money, so I don't know what they have to work with, what the wiggle room is, but it's up in the air now. But if they can get him on campus, absolutely a chance to solidify that class even stronger. And I'm bringing another weapon.
That's our man Shea Wildeboer on the Jayhawks men's basketball beat. Shea, thanks for coming on today.
Now let's have a good hump day.
That's Shea Wildeboer talking Kansas Jayhawks basketball. Now we're going to switch gears, and as we always do, bring in our man John Kirby. But, John, who's known for his football coverage, has given us a lot of baseball content so far this spring. We're headed for a big weekend in Lawrence as the Jayhawks are set to host the NCAA Regional that starts on Friday. Kirby, I know you've been looking at the regional, asking around and talking to people who cover Arkansas and Missouri State. What's your take on this team, talking about Dan Fitzgerald's squad, and what about the regional? How are the matchups?
Randy, if you look around all your top guys, D1 baseball, Baseball America, everybody that covers college baseball, they're calling it, if not the toughest regional, one of the toughest regionals. So there were some projections I saw last week that had Missouri State as a number 2 in some regionals. Well, they're a 3 in KU's regional, okay, and then Arkansas is the 2, which a lot of people thought going into the weekend that Arkansas would be a host. I heard Dave Van Horn, the head coach at Arkansas, say when they got knocked out of the SEC tournaments and they were getting on the bus, they were all talking that, hey, we're going to host. I mean, not hosting was a shock to them. So, it's a hard regional. It should be a great atmosphere. You're playing in Lawrence. You've got Missouri State fans who are used to being in the tournament. You've got Arkansas fans who are obviously, this is a yearly thing for them. So I think you're going to see pretty good crowds of people in Lawrence this weekend. I'm looking forward for a great atmosphere. So, listen, I'm going to say this, Randy, though, and I know Dan Fitzgerald. He comes on the podcast a couple times during the year, and
He's been a great friend of the show, really,
absolutely,
to be honest.
And John Coyne, who's their recruiting coordinator, he pretty much is almost a one-man show who's responsible for getting a lot of these players on campus. I promise you, they got their guys focused, okay? Because all of us on message boards in the media talking KU baseball, what's all the talk been about? It's been about KU hosting, KU winning the Big 12 regular season, KU winning the Big 12 postseason, and then getting stuck in with Arkansas and Missouri State, okay? But let me tell you what nobody's talking about, and you got to be careful here. I saw somebody on the message board say, hey, when you face Northeastern, does Fitzgerald throw off? Does he try to save his ace? And I'm telling you, the thing here, Randy, nobody is talking about Northeastern, okay?
Exactly.
I mean, they won 38 games, all right? They lost the first game in their conference tournament. They won 4 straight to win their conference tournament again. They went to the NCAA tournament last year. They went 1-2. So these are guys that have been there, all right? These are guys that had to come back and win 4 straight. They lead the nation in stolen bases by almost 30 stolen bases. Okay. So,
oh, wow.
I mean, no one's even close to them. So they are a team that wants to, hit a little single in between second and third, and then move runners and steal bases and get base on balls, and then put
So it's that
pressure on you.
2014, 2015 Royals style is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know, if it's all about that. Hey, let's hope they don't have three relievers like those Royals teams had.
Ooh,
But I mean, because
we don't want HDH. No, no, no.
yeah, but I'm just saying, listen, Northeastern, if you guys follow baseball, okay, I mean, there are upsets in that sport more than any other sport because you get a
Yes.
pitcher who gets hot, you get a couple, somebody boots the ball and makes a couple errors, and next thing you know, you get down 4-1 or 3-0, and then you're playing from behind. Baseball's such a different sport than football or basketball, where maybe more is so much dependent on athleticism and strength, and whereas baseball, you're not knocking heads in baseball, you're just playing baseball. So I'm just saying, don't sleep on Northeastern. I think they're a team that Fitzgerald, they will absolutely take, I mean, serious. This will not be something where they're looking ahead of, hey, who are we going to play, Arkansas or Missouri State?
Let's move over and talk some Kansas Jayhawks football now. There's been a lot of action on the recruiting trail, Kirby, and Lance Leipold's staff is off to a pretty good start at this point. Get us caught up to speed on some of the latest commitments, and what are your thoughts on how they've done so far?
Well, I mean, Randy, they've exceeded my expectations. Okay. I mean, when we knew that this class was going to be a smaller class, okay, the original numbers that I was hearing was somewhere between 12 and 15, based on
Mm-hmm.
maybe if you can get a certain guy at this position that's too good to pass up, then maybe you'll take another guy at that position, or Deng Tong, who committed from the Missouri side, a receiver that's, kind of been picking up a lot of steam on the recruiting trail. He's
Yeah.
committed, but I think, the thought was, hey, you take one receiver. Well, then you get Deng Tong and you say, all right, maybe we take another one. So the bottom line, the number I think is going to be somewhere around 13 or 14 total. So, I mean, you're talking, shoot, they're technically almost halfway done with the high school recruiting class. So it has
And it's
exceeded
not
my.
even June yet.
Oh, they haven't even really got into the heart of the official visits. And I know we'll get onto that. We'll probably talk about that here in a little bit. But, they
Yeah.
just landed over the weekend Mason Ogleby, who's a four-star tight end, very athletic.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana wanted him. Okay. I mean, he's from Indiana. The defending national champs wanted him. The problem was they've got like three or four tight ends who are all supposed to be fighting for a top spot on the depth chart coming back, who are all freshmen and sophomores. Okay. So it's a loaded position at Indiana. Ryan Day from Ohio State, he made a home visit with him in April. I mean, Ryan
Oh,
Day
wow.
he doesn't come in your home. Okay. He doesn't do home visits unless they think you're talented and they want you. So, I mean, there were some pretty good schools on Oglesby. And then Indiana's kind of become this state that Kansas has put some resources and people in. And then
Mm-hmm.
they got a commitment on Monday from Nick Vacrumba from Indiana. I mean, he was supposed to visit Louisville and South Florida. He made an unofficial visit. This was very interesting, Randy. He and his dad flew into town. Okay. They drove around campus. They looked at everything, the surroundings, the new stadium construction, and it's a dead period. So they couldn't meet with the coaches. But what they did is they gave him a virtual tour. So he came in knowing that you can't go on campus and meet with the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And he had other schools. He had other options. And I think this was down to the point where Kansas is only going to take one more offensive lineman. And they've got like three or four other guys on the board. And I think this kid said, you know, I think Kansas is at the top of my list. And I want to commit. So let's take a trip out there. Let's look at everything. And then if that's what I want to do, I mean, so that's a pretty big deal when a kid who could take multiple visits takes a special trip out on his dime to see campus to commit early before he's even going to come on his official visit. So I thought that was a pretty telling commitment. So things have been moving fast. Listen, KU right now, Randy, is tied for the second most commitments in the Big 12. So,
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
the staff has really done a nice job of going out and getting some guys early. And I'll be honest with you. I said it earlier. I wasn't expecting this. So, I mean, they've done a nice job.
You mentioned, official visits time is that kind of the part of the summer where that happens, that is coming up really fast. Take us through what key positions and maybe the players that this staff is looking for, and how do you see the month of June shaping up at this point?
Well, Randy, I said all along, and I'm probably correcting myself here. I said June's going to be wild, right? But I had no
Mm-hmm.
idea that they were going to have 7 commitments going into June. So all of a sudden, I don't know how crazy June's going to be. Now, what I do think is going to happen is things are going to change fast. And I'll give you an example. If they're going to be in that 13 to 14 range, we're only looking at 6 or 7 more players who might commit. Okay,
Yeah.
I look at the tight end position, and they've got Drew Kessel out of North Dakota, and Talon Scott out of Arizona, and Charlie Fowler out of Illinois. I mean, they've got 3 guys. They got another one on the board too, I believe, but they're taking one tight end. Last I heard. Okay, I look at defensive end. Okay, you got Jerron Allen who visited and Owen Roberts who visited. I mean, they would take either of those commitments right now. They've got C.J. Johnson coming in on June 5th, who is a heck of a player. They've got Gideon Taiwo coming in. I think he told me June 12th. Georgia just offered him. Okay,
Oh,
so
oh,
but
wow.
but
Okay.
my point is, Randy, you've got like 6 defensive end on the board right now who've either visited or set to visit, and there's one spot. So the first guy that says, I want to be a Jayhawk, it's over. Everybody else is off the board. Safety position. Rashad Silver, got a story coming on him soon. Trey Robertson, Cooper Onmont out of Kansas, Keontae Toomer. I mean, they've got like 5 safeties on the board. Wide receiver, they got Julian Cromartie, who just visited. Kobe Haynes just told me he's still set for his visit. DJ Huggins, Landon Williams, there's somebody else. There's like Tavares Powell. There's like 7 wide receivers who've either visited or have their plane tickets ready to come. And it's first come, first serve. The first wide receiver that says, I want to be a Jayhawk, it's over. They're shutting the board down. Defensive tackle. I know Joseph Graves and Kadrian Olds, and there's a couple others. And again, it's one spot for all of these guys on the board. So I've got a good feeling, Randy, that when you have a lot of these type of players on the board that have either visited or they've already got their official visit set, just to get one at each position, I think they're going to end up with somebody that they really wanted. So I mean, this won't be a big class in numbers, but it could end up being a pretty solid class from top to bottom, according to the guys they wanted.
John, I got a kind of a follow-up question. So you talked about, obviously multiple guys at key positions that are scheduled to visit that could come in, that you say one of them commits and they close it down. This staff, is that how they approach it, or do they maybe have a certain
No.
guy that might be a little higher? Or
Yeah, no, what you do is you group them. You say, all right, here's our group of guys we absolutely take now. Okay. And then you got
Mhm.
another group that you say, we like these guys. We would absolutely take them, but we'd kind of like to know what these other 2 or 3 guys do before we jump on this one. And I do think that it has a way of working itself out because you got June 5th, June 12th, and June 19th. Okay. And kids are scattered throughout there. So
Mhm.
if CJ Johnson comes in on June 5th and on June 7th, after his visit, says, I want to be a Jayhawk, they shut it down and they just make 6 phone calls and say, hey, the scholarship that we're giving you is gone. Or you tell the kid that hasn't visited yet, hey, your visit's off the books. The trip's canceled. We got our committed and we're shut down there. So that's usually how it works with most staffs.
Mm. Wow. 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 That is the final word, and that will do it for another edition of the Inside Slant podcast from jayhawkslant.com. We want to wish a special, send out all the luck in the world to Coach Dan Fitzgerald and the Kansas baseball program as they gear up to host the NCAA baseball regional at Hoagland Ballpark this weekend. For my man John Kirby, my man Shea Wildeboer, I'm Randy Withers. You've been listening to the Inside Slant podcast from jayhawkslant.com. We will talk with you again soon. Rock chalk.
This has been a podcast from jayhawkslant.com.